To end off Plane Week with the bang, we're going to be talking about the king of the Burt, the A-10 Warthog. With a bullet the size of a beer bottle, its cannon, the Gallied Avenger, can lay down democracy at a rate of 70 rounds per second.
2, 1, fire!
The gun itself is about the size of a pickup truck and takes up more than a third of the plane. It was actually developed before the aircraft, which was specifically made to make it fly, meaning that the A-10 is essentially just a flying gun. The sound you hear before the Burt is actually the crack of the supersonic rounds impacting the earth before the sound of the gun even reaches the observer. This is exactly why they say, if you hear it, you weren't the target. Does this document disclose the truth on UFOs? The ONR recently disclosed evidence of a next-generation laser weapon. Okay, big whoop. The US has been developing laser weapons for decades now. We know that the data disclosed from the old generation details that they require the power from a large Navy warship or even a giant aircraft-carried chemical laser, which takes up all the free space in the massive Boeing YAL-1. So when the media disclosed the new generation of this device, everyone wrote it off as just another laser weapon, and it seemed to be taken with a grain of salt. This weapon, however, is very, very different. Previously, the large amount of space and power required to competently shoot down aircraft effectively made the Helios redundant and ineffective, a problem similar to that of the railgun. But this new generation doesn't have those problems. With a much smaller size and with way less power required, we can put this laser on virtually anything. And since the laser-induced plasma emitted focuses to a point instead of shooting one massive beam, we now have the capabilities to shoot down almost anything, including approaching ICBMs. So how does this relate to UAPs? When the Pentagon disclosed videos of advanced unidentified aircraft, it did two very important things. It first hinted to hostile nations that the US has very advanced aircraft of its own. And secondly, because mainstream media only cares about getting viewer traffic, the intentionally disclosed information was blown up by the media into the same category of UFO bullshit that nobody takes serious. By releasing this secretive and very sought after information to all the citizens, the public was intentionally misled from the truth of the actual classified programs. This is the definition of disinformation. The so-called LLD system is the culmination of years of laser development with an entirely new type of physics called FED. This system is capable of doing something conspiracy theorists have been discussing for years now: holograms. We can now display images in midair or even in the sky with nothing more than light. Does this remind you of anything? I don't think that individually conspiracy theories are 100% true, but I do think that they connect with little bits of truth to them all. You see, no matter what, information about the classified will find its way to the public. There will always be unintentional leaks of secretive black budget projects. But if the story isn't released to completion by the government, the imagination of the public will fill the gaps of the story, forming the massive, blown out of proportion conspiracy theories popularized today. To come back full circle to the UAPs, we do know that whatever they are, they take interest in nuclear weapons. Like in the Rendlesham Forest incident, for example, where the United States-owned Air Force Base in the UK, Woodbridge, was stalked by a UFO. Sworn US Air Force witnesses detailed a non-conventional glowing metallic object which not only landed, but armed and disarmed its underground nuclear weapons. The beam of light which was emitted by the UAP, detailed in the eyewitness report, seemingly had wireless control of what's supposed to be an unstoppable nuclear launch system. Again, in 1964, a similar occurrence was witnessed by now retired US Air Force First Lieutenant Robert Jacobs. A similar craft matched the speed and trajectory of a nuclear missile, before firing a beam of light into the warhead and darting away at tremendous speeds. Speeds similar to those described by the highly trained military personnel who witnessed the Nimitz incident that took place back in 2004. There have been dozens of incidents very similar to these that the government has confirmed to be true. So what does this seemingly underwhelming picture have to do with anything? It shows that without a doubt, the United States does in fact have next-generation weaponry. It is for certain a step even further towards disclosure than the hint the Pentagon dropped back in 2020. We know for sure the government is constantly working on next-generation aircraft, and with a new laser weapon which with numbers could render a full-scale enemy ICBM attack useless, it makes sense to me that the development of a system which could deter a nuclear deterrent would be of top priority. Before I go, I want you to think about something. If the SR-71 Blackbird that was declassified over 5 decades ago still to this day has characteristics unparalleled to any modern aircraft, what capabilities do secret projects have in 2022? It's probably beyond imagination. Odds are, it'll be a while before we know for sure, because just like any declassified aircraft we know of today, it took decades of development before it was ready to be released to the public. This is what happens when a jet flexes on you. Low flybys at supersonic speed have been a common demonstration for the planet-sized balls of adrenaline junkie pilots. Moving at 0.2 miles a second, a single miscalculation can turn a pilot into a 1,000-piece person puzzle for the county coroner. Even used on the battlefield as a show of force, the badass nature of low flybys have stolen the hearts of aviation enthusiasts everywhere. I mean, how cool would it actually be to buzz the tower?
The buzz.
Look at this chart. It compares military budgets of countries, but it's a bit different because it doesn't compare one country's military spending to another, but instead compares the US's military spending with the cumulative total of the 9 other countries' military spending, who are all on the top 10 list of biggest spenders. The reason? Well, the United States spent over $800 billion on its military in 2021, thus outspending South Korea, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Germany, France, Russia, the UK, India, and China combined. So there's frankly no worthwhile comparison to be made here. Yet still, after fighting wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and after a trade war with China, as well as unfriendly relations with Iran and North Korea, the US has its fair share of enemies who undoubtedly want to hurt them in one way, shape, or form. So, hypothetically speaking, despite such a well-equipped military, could an enemy ever successfully invade the US or make devastating damages to the nation in some way? Well,